It's been almost 7 years now since the final season of Game of Thrones premiered, and I think it's fair to say that basically everyone has tried their best to forget it ever happened. To think that a show with a basically perfect first 4 seasons and arguably one of the greatest individual seasons of any TV show in history, season 4, would end with an absolute dumpster fire of a final season is pretty crazy. Because of how terribly it ended, there hasn't really been much talk of Game of Thrones in the last few years, in comparison to how much everyone used to talk about it in the decade it was airing. The world of Westeros had slowly been fading from pop culture. This was up until 2022, where we were introduced to a new time period in the Ice and Fire universe. House of the Dragon introduced us to a completely new ensemble of characters, some of which we had heard briefly mentioned in Game of Thrones, but never knew much about. Season 1 was a massive hit, with fans loving how much it matched the vibe of Game of Thrones. It wasn't quite the same quality, but it was still a very enjoyable return to the universe. Fast forward a couple of years to Season 2 and it's not quite the same. Despite the occasional good episode here and there, the second season was cluttered with bad writing and George R.R. Martin himself being a huge hater of the show after the fallout with the showrunners, where he literally stated, "This is not my story any longer." House of the Dragon is set to have a third season released this year, but the hype doesn't seem to be that big any longer. With both House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones bringing disappointment to the fans of the franchise, there was one more series Martin had written which was yet to have been adapted onto the screen. And with that, HBO decided to create A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, a more light-hearted and fun installment to the universe. There wasn't much hype initially, and after the episode runtimes were announced to be around 30 minutes each, with only 6 episodes per season, people were even more put off. But when that first episode dropped, everyone seemed to change their mind. We're introduced to a likeable and relatable hero as our protagonist, the complete opposite of the cynical, backstabbing characters in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. The vibe is also completely different to the two other shows. Rather than a political drama with tons and tons of names, where you can hardly keep track of all of them, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is far quieter, with a simple plotline and only 2 main characters. You have Dunk and Egg, a knight and a squire trying to win a tournament. After the first 2 episodes, most people liked it. It wasn't hailed as a masterpiece, but just a good show all around. The next 3 episodes are where the show bursts into life, with the reveal of Egg's true identity, Dunk's attack on Aerion, and the trial of the Seven, of course, all taking place in just 3 30-minute episodes. The show also introduces us to Prince Baelor Targaryen, who the audience immediately sees as one of the most likeable characters in the entirety of the franchise, and one with so much potential character development. At the end of episode 5, we see him taking a stand with Dunk, opposing his own family just because he believes it was the honourable thing to do. All over the internet, we started seeing people make Ned Stark comparisons, and there was an element of fear going into the next episode due to us knowing what happened to that guy. The Trial of the Seven itself was just fantastic, with incredible camera work and cinematography which makes the viewer feel as if they're physically on the battlefield. Especially with the POV shot where you're looking through Dunk's helmet. We also have the whole flashback sequence which builds up the audience's relationship with our protagonist, Dunk. It shows us the pains of his past and what he lost on his journey to where he is now. And the episode ends with the revelation that Prince Baelor was wounded severely at the hands of his own family and falling to the ground dead. It's a devastating ending to an outstanding episode of television and sums up itself why everyone seems to love this show so much. The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms manages to do something which a lot of shows nowadays fail at. They make you care about each character. There's only 3 main ones, being Dunk, Egg, Baelor, and even you can count Lionel Baratheon. This is the reason why it feels so awful when you see one of them die or literally anything happen to them. The show makes you feel attached to them and brings out emotions in the viewer, which ultimately is what makes the show enjoyable. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Take a note that this is my first video, so leave a comment for any suggestions. Thank you for watching.